There are places in the world where people reach their 80s and 90s with energy, clarity, and a kind of vitality that feels almost unfair. And no, it's not because they discovered some miracle pill. It's because of something much simpler and much more ignored. The Mediterranean way of eating. But here's what most people don't realize. It's not just about healthy food. Some of these foods actually interact with your body in ways that can slow down aging at a cellular level. And one of them, number 3, has been shown to activate pathways linked to longevity itself. Even more surprising, the number 1 on this list is something millions of people already use, but in a way that cancels most of its benefits. So if you've been feeling more tired than you should, if your skin, your energy, or even your focus doesn't feel like it used to, stay with me. Because in this video, you'll understand how some people are quietly aging differently, and how you can too. Now you're about to discover the 10 main foods of the Mediterranean diet. And I recommend you stay with me until the end, because I'll also show you exactly how to include these powerful foods into your daily routine in a simple, balanced, and realistic way, without overcomplicating your life. And if you're someone who wants to age with more energy, clarity, and intention, make sure to subscribe and join this journey. Most people think the Mediterranean diet is just another trend. Olive oil, fish, vegetables, you've heard it all before. But what if I told you this isn't a diet at all? It's a pattern, a rhythm, a way of eating that has been repeated for generations, long before modern nutrition even existed. And the interesting part is this. People who follow this lifestyle don't just live longer. They age differently. Less inflammation, more stable energy, sharper minds, healthier skin. Not because they're doing something extreme, but because they're doing something consistent. While modern diets often push your body into cycles of stress, spikes, crashes, inflammation, the Mediterranean pattern does the opposite. It stabilizes. And over time, that stability becomes visible. In how you feel, in how you think, and yes, even in how you look. The best part, these are not rare, expensive, or complicated foods. They're simple, accessible, and already part of many people's routines, just used in the wrong way, or not often enough. So as you go through this list, don't just think of it as information. Think of it as small adjustments that, repeated daily, can completely change how your body ages. And if you're someone who wants to feel more energized, more clear, and more aligned with your body as the years go by, this channel was made for you. 1. The oil that protects your cells silently. Extra virgin olive oil. Most people see olive oil as just fat, something you add to a salad, or use when cooking, but in the Mediterranean, it's treated very differently, almost like a daily ritual. And here's where things get interesting. Extra virgin olive oil is rich in compounds, called polyphenols, powerful antioxidants that help reduce inflammation and protect your cells from damage over time. In simple terms, it doesn't just fuel your body, it helps preserve it. Some studies have even compared its effects to mild anti-inflammatory medications, but without the side effects. And yet, most people completely lose these benefits because they use it the wrong way. High heat can destroy many of these delicate compounds, which means frying with it at very high temperatures cancels much of what makes it special. In Mediterranean cultures, olive oil is often used raw, drizzled over vegetables, bread, or even meals that are already cooked. Simple but intentional. And that's the pattern you'll start to notice. It's not just what they eat, it's how they use it. Because sometimes, the difference between aging faster and aging well is hidden in the smallest daily choices. The secret your brain recognizes instantly when people think about fish, they usually think about protein. But in the Mediterranean, that's not the real reason it's so valued. The real power of fatty fish lies in something your brain deeply depends on: omega-3 fatty acids, especially DHA. This is one of the main building blocks of your brain. And over time, a lack of it doesn't just affect your health. It affects how clearly you think, how well you focus, and even how you feel emotionally. That constant mental fog, that drop in energy during the day, sometimes, it's not stress, it's deficiency. Mediterranean populations have consumed small fatty fish, like sardines, for centuries, not occasionally, but consistently. And science now confirms what tradition already knew. Omega-3s help reduce inflammation, support cognitive function, and even slow certain aspects of brain aging. But here's what makes it even more interesting. Sardines, for example, are not only rich in omega-3, they're also lower in toxins compared to larger fish, which means you get more benefit with less risk. Simple foods, smart choices. Because sometimes, feeding your brain properly is what allows the rest of your body to feel young again. The purple compound that slows aging at the cellular level. Red grapes. Most people look at grapes and see just one thing: sugar. Something to limit, something to avoid. But that's only the surface, because hidden inside red grapes is one of the most fascinating compounds studied in longevity science, resveratrol. And what makes it so powerful isn't just what it does, but how it communicates with your body. Resveratrol has been shown to activate specific pathways linked to cellular protection and repair. The same pathways associated with calorie restriction, one of the most well-known mechanisms for extending lifespan. In simple terms, it doesn't just nourish your body, it sends instructions. Instructions that tell your cells to become more resilient, to protect themselves from damage, to function more efficiently over time. And this is where it becomes even more interesting. For centuries, Mediterranean cultures have consumed grapes not as a treat, but as part of daily life. Fresh, seasonal, balanced, not in excess, not processed, which completely changes how your body responds to it. Because the problem was never the grape, it was the context. When consumed in its natural form, alongside a balanced diet, grapes become something very different. Not a source of harm, but a signal of adaptation. A quiet activation of longevity mechanisms happening beneath the surface. And maybe that's the most important shift to understand. Some foods don't just feed you, they inform your biology. They tell your body how to behave over time. And when that message is repeated consistently, aging itself begins to change. The food your gut has been waiting for, Greek yogurt/fermented foods, there's a part of your body that most people rarely think about. Yet it quietly influences almost everything. Your gut, not just digestion, but your immune system, your energy levels, even your mood and mental clarity. And the problem is, modern life constantly disrupts it. Processed foods, excess sugar, lack of diversity. Over time, this creates an imbalance in your gut microbiome, the ecosystem of bacteria that helps regulate your entire body, and when that balance is off, you feel it. Low energy, inflammation, brain fog that seems to come out of nowhere. This is where fermented foods begin to change the equation. Greek yogurt, along with other traditional fermented foods, has been part of Mediterranean diets for generations, not because it was trendy, but because it was naturally integrated into daily life. These foods are rich in probiotics, beneficial bacteria that help restore balance inside your guts. And when that balance returns, your body starts to function differently. Digestion becomes more efficient. Your immune system becomes more responsive. Your energy becomes more stable throughout the day. But here's something most people overlook. It's not about consuming large amounts, it's about consistency, small portions, daily presence, natural integration. That's how these cultures have used it for centuries. Because your gut doesn't respond to intensity, it responds to repetition. And when your internal environment is balanced, everything else begins to align. Because sometimes, feeling younger doesn't start on the surface, it starts deep within. The tiny seed that carries concentrated life, sesame seeds. At first glance, sesame seeds don't seem like anything special. They're small, almost invisible, usually sprinkled on top of food, as an afterthought. But what most people don't realize is this: some of the most powerful foods in nature don't stand out visually. They concentrate their strength quietly, and sesame seeds are a perfect example of that. For thousands of years, they've been used across Mediterranean and Middle Eastern cultures, not as a trend, but as a staple. Often in the form of tahini, a simple paste made from ground sesame seeds. And there's a reason this tradition has lasted so long. Sesame seeds are rich in lignans compounds with antioxidant properties that help protect your cells from damage over time. They're also packed with essential minerals like calcium, magnesium, and zinc, which means they don't just support one system, they support structure, your bones, your skin, your hormonal balance. And here's what makes them even more interesting. They deliver all of this in a very small amount. You don't need large portions, you don't need complex preparation. Just a spoon of tahini. A sprinkle over a meal. Simple, consistent, effective. Because your body doesn't measure impact by size, it measures it by density and frequency. And sesame seeds deliver both. They are small in appearance, but biologically, they are incredibly loud. And when something that small carries that much information, it has the power to influence how your body ages over time. The leaf that protects your mind over time. Dark leafy greens. Leafy greens are often seen as the most basic form of healthy eating. Something simple, something obvious, almost like they don't deserve attention. But that perception is exactly what makes them underestimated. Because in the Mediterranean, these foods are not treated as optional, they are constant. Fresh greens like spinach, arugula, and other dark leafy vegetables appear on the table almost every day, not as decoration, but as a foundation. And over time, that consistency creates something powerful. These greens are rich in folate, vitamin K, and a range of plant compounds that support brain health in a very specific way. They help protect neurons, support blood flow to the brain, and reduce oxidative stress that contributes to cognitive decline. Some long-term studies have even shown that people who regularly consume leafy greens experience a slower rate of mental aging. Not just living longer, but thinking clearly for longer. And that changes everything. Because aging isn't only about the body, it's about memory, clarity, presence, the ability to stay connected to your life as the years go by. And here's what makes this even more interesting. You don't need complex recipes or drastic changes. A handful added to your meals, a simple salad with olive oil, a consistent presence on your plate. That's enough to begin shifting the pattern, because your brain doesn't respond to intensity, it responds to repetition. And when something as simple as a leaf becomes part of your daily rhythm, it stops being just food. It becomes protection, quiet, consistent, long-term protection for your mind. The nut that feeds your future self, walnuts. At first glance, walnuts don't seem like anything extraordinary. Just a simple snack. Something small, you eat without thinking. But sometimes, what looks ordinary carries a deeper intelligence. Walnuts are one of the richest plant-based sources of omega-3 fatty acids, nutrients your brain depends on to function properly over time. And unlike quick energy foods that give you a temporary boost, this is long-term nourishment. Omega-3s help reduce inflammation, support communication between brain cells, and protect against gradual cognitive decline. In simple terms, they don't just give you energy, they help preserve how your mind works. And here's something interesting. Walnuts have been part of Mediterranean diets for centuries, not in large quantities, not as a main dish, but as a daily addition, a handful here, a small portion there, never excessive, always consistent. Because the body doesn't respond to intensity. They are dense in nutrients, which means even small amounts carry significant impact. But that impact only reveals itself over time, not in a dramatic way, not overnight, but quietly, accumulating. And that's why they matter. Because your future self is not built by what you do once, it's built by what you repeat, without even noticing. A small habit, a simple choice. Something that seems insignificant today, but becomes meaningful years from now. And maybe that's the real role of walnuts. Not just to feed you in the present, but to support the version of you that's still coming. The natural anti-inflammatory your body understands instantly. Fresh herbs. Most people see herbs as something secondary, a final touch, a detail added for flavor, and nothing more. But in the Mediterranean, herbs are not decoration. They are part of the foundation. Rosemary, oregano, thyme, basil. These aren't just ingredients, they're used daily, often in generous amounts, woven naturally into meals. And what makes them powerful isn't just their taste, it's their chemistry. Fresh herbs are rich in bioactive compounds, natural substances that help regulate inflammation, protect cells, and support your body's internal balance. Some of these compounds have even been studied for their effects on oxidative stress and microbial balance, showing similarities to mild pharmaceutical actions, but in a much more harmonious way. In simple terms, they don't force your body to react, they support your body to regulate itself. And that difference matters. Because chronic inflammation is one of the silent drivers of aging, often unnoticed, but constantly affecting how your body feels and functions. And while modern approaches try to fight inflammation aggressively, traditional Mediterranean cultures do something else. They soften it, gradually, naturally, consistently, by adding herbs to meals every single day, not as medicine, but as part of life. A pinch of oregano, a branch of rosemary, fresh herbs mixed into oils, salads, and warm dishes. Simple actions, repeated over time, because the body doesn't always need something stronger. Sometimes, it needs something smarter, something it already understands. And when these signals are repeated daily, your body begins to respond differently. Less stress, less inflammation, more balance. Because healing doesn't always come from intensity, sometimes it comes from subtle signals, whispered through the food you eat. The carbohydrate that doesn't age you. Chickpeas. Carbohydrates have become one of the most misunderstood parts of modern nutrition. For many people, they represent weight gain, fatigue, and even accelerated aging, so the instinct is simple: avoid them. But here's the truth: most people never hear. The problem was never carbohydrates. It was the type and the context. In the Mediterranean, foods like chickpeas have been consumed for centuries, not as an exception, but as a foundation. And their effect on the body is completely different from what most people associate with carbs today. Chickpeas are rich in fiber, plant-based protein, and complex carbohydrates that digest slowly, which means instead of creating sharp spikes in blood sugar, they provide a steady release of energy. No crashes, no sudden fatigue, no constant hunger. And this stability is more important than most people realize. Because repeated blood sugar spikes don't just affect energy, they accelerate processes linked to aging, including inflammation and cellular stress. So when you replace unstable sources of energy with something steady, you're not just improving how you feel today, you're reducing long-term damage. And that's where chickpeas become powerful, not because they are extreme, but because they are stable. They nourish without overwhelming the system. They support without disrupting balance. And in Mediterranean cultures, they're used in simple, consistent ways. In salads, in stews, as spreads like hummus. Nothing complicated, nothing forced, just real food, used regularly. Because your body doesn't need extremes to thrive, it needs consistency. And sometimes, the foods that help you age slower are the ones that keep everything steady. The pattern that turns food into longevity, the Mediterranean way of eating. And now, this is where everything changes. Because after looking at all these foods, it's tempting to think the secret is in one specific ingredient. Olive oil, fish, nuts, herbs. But the real answer is deeper than that. It's the pattern. In the Mediterranean, food is not treated as a tool for quick results. It's part of a rhythm. Meals are slower, Ingredients are simpler. Eating is intentional, not rushed. And this creates something most modern lifestyles are missing: stability. When you eat in a calm, consistent way, combining whole foods, healthy fats, fiber, and natural flavors, your body doesn't go into cycles of stress. It doesn't spike and crash. It regulates, and that regulation affects everything. Your digestion becomes more efficient. Your hormones become more balanced. Your energy becomes more stable throughout the day. Even your nervous system begins to shift from constant stimulation to a more grounded state. And science is beginning to confirm what these cultures have practiced for centuries. It's not just what you eat, it's how often, how consistently, and in what environment you eat it. Because nutrients don't work in isolation. They work together, in combinations, in patterns, over time, and that's what creates longevity. Not a single food, not a temporary change, but a way of eating that your body can recognize and trust. Something you can repeat for years, without resistance, because in the end, it's not what you eat once that shapes your health. It's what you repeat, quietly, every day. And that pattern is what turns food into longevity. Now here's the part most people miss. It's easy to look at this list and think, okay, I just need to add a few of these foods. But that's not really what makes the difference. Because none of these foods work like a switch. They don't change your body overnight. They don't create instant transformation. What they do is something much more powerful. They accumulate. Every time you choose foods that reduce inflammation, your body experiences a little less stress. Every time you nourish your brain, your gut, your cells, you're reinforcing a pattern. And over time, that pattern becomes visible. In your energy, in your clarity, in how your body responds to life. This is why people in Mediterranean regions don't just live longer, they age differently. Not because they're doing something extreme, but because they're doing something aligned. While most modern lifestyles push the body into cycles of overload and recovery, this way of eating keeps the body in balance. And balance, over decades, becomes longevity. So the real question isn't, which of these foods should I try? It's, what pattern am I repeating every day, without noticing? It's being shaped quietly by what you do consistently. How to actually include these foods in your daily routine now. Knowing these foods is one thing, but actually using them every day, that's where most people struggle. Because change doesn't happen when something is perfect, it happens when something is simple enough to repeat. So instead of trying to transform your entire diet overnight, think in small, almost effortless shifts. Start with your mornings. A simple bowl of Greek yogurt with a handful of walnuts and a few grapes already combines probiotics, healthy fats, and powerful antioxidants, all in less than 2 minutes. No complexity, no overthinking, just nourishment. Then look at your main meals. Instead of asking what should I eat, ask a better question. How can I upgrade what I'm already eating? Add a drizzle of extra virgin olive oil to your meals after they're ready. Toss in some leafy greens on the side. Use herbs like oregano or rosemary, not just for flavor, but as part of the meal itself. You're not changing everything. You're enhancing what's already there. And that's what makes it sustainable. Another powerful shift is in your snacks. Instead of reaching for something processed, keep it simple. A small portion of nuts, a few chickpeas, seasoned with herbs, even a piece of fruit like grapes. These aren't just snacks. They're signals you send to your body throughout the day. Signals of stability, of nourishment, of care. And then comes one of the most overlooked parts: consistency. It's not about doing everything right for 1 week. It's about doing something right every day. Because your body doesn't transform from intensity, it transforms from repetition. Even something as small as replacing 1 meal a day, or adding just 2 of these foods consistently, can begin to shift how your body feels over time. More stable energy, less inflammation, more clarity, and maybe the most important part of all, slow down when you eat. In Mediterranean cultures, meals are not rushed, they are experienced. And this changes how your body processes food. Better digestion, better absorption, less stress. So this isn't just about what you eat, it's about how you relate to it. Because when food stops being something automatic and becomes something intentional, your entire experience of eating changes. And that's when the real transformation begins. If there's one thing to take from all of this, it's this. Your body is always listening. To what you eat, to how you eat, to what you repeat. And most of the time, the difference between feeling older and feeling alive is not something dramatic. It's something subtle, daily, almost invisible. The truth is, this was never out of reach. These foods, this way of eating, it's simple. But simple doesn't mean insignificant. It means sustainable. So now I'm curious. Which of these are already part of your routine, and which one surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. And if this video helped you see food in a different way, make sure to like and subscribe. Because here, we explore the small shifts that create real transformation over time.